Oh, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be
All
here.
right. So you've got this new book, South to America, A Journey Below the Mason-Dixon to Understand the Soul of a Nation. And you reference books that you recommend in that incredible text, including a book that maybe a lot of people don't know that Howard Zinn wrote called The Southern Mystique. Now, with so many books that have been written about the South, why is Southern Mystique on your short list?
Well, I mean, he does in many ways what I aspire to do, which is to get past the mythology and actually understand the centrality of the South and the American project, and also to sort of evade the danger. And this is 1964 when this book comes out, which is really important because there's a sense in that moment, and it continues, that the South is this outlier, right, in terms of the depth of American racism, in terms of the depth of exploitation. And he's saying that the differences between the regions are of maybe of degree, but not substance in that
Mm,
book. And it's this incredible example also of sort of the uses of history, right? And that a very kind of he was clear about the uses of history, right? We tell history in order to get us closer to something like freedom, and also is a marvelous example of the use of experience, right? So his experience being in the South, right, as an observer, but also a deep participant in the movement, and also someone who was part of a Black institution in the South.
mm,
And seeing through that lens actually, I think, allows for him to tell a story um, that was clear like a bell. And it's, and just to sort of go back to the point that it's 1964 really briefly, this is the year of Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney's being murdered. This is the year of the Harlem riots, right? And
Mhm.
so in that moment, to be saying, no, this isn't just a Southern story. There's something particular happening here that we all can learn from. But this is a story of what this nation's project has been, that has to be addressed directly by us all.
mm.
Mm, that's
And
great.
before you go in, Jesse, just pointing out that Howard, along with many of the activists of the time, was at the funeral of Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney, which was not exactly an undangerous thing to do, to travel to Neshoba County to commemorate those three.
Yeah.
Mm.
Back to you, Jesse.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. Really cool. Well, it's great to be with you. I've really gained so much from your work. Uh, your book on hip hop has been important to me for a long time, and um, I'm just really glad you could join us this evening. And I was wondering about another panel that you were on. You were on a panel with Howard Zinn in 1997, and I was wondering if you could tell us more about that experience.
Yeah. So here we go, learning from history, right? And so the way, it was a remarkable experience. It was a joint keynote. Part of what made it remarkable is that he went first, which I thought was this really sort of, I was young, I didn't have a sense of how significant that was, but he let me sort of be the anchor. And I was, like 24 years old, 20, yeah, and had a sort of that, and we saw an example, just this sort of brilliant but also affable and natural disposition. And we talked about how one lives a life as a person of conscience. And I just was so moved by the way he made space for me. And I was not his student, but it was absolutely a moment of being a student, that I have modeled later, that you make space for young people. You make space for them to tell their stories, to exercise their voice. And that just the attentiveness that he displayed in that moment was also, to what I was saying. I mean, he didn't, it was so, I hate to say this, but it's rare. that kind of, for someone, a worldwide historian, right, who is so extremely influential, to just be attentive to this, little graduate student.
I love that. That seems to be a thread throughout his life, trying to empower students wherever he was.
Yeah.
That's great. And Dave, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, just there's another book by Howard, which some maybe people aren't familiar with, the way people might not be familiar with the Southern Mystique, and that's his book on SNCC, which is called The New Abolitionists, or
Yeah.
SNCC, The New Abolitionists.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could speak a little about that text, first of all, which to me is an incredible demonstration of what social history can and should be. And also I was wanted to ask you what you think we can learn from the work of SNCC for the troubled times in which we are in today.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's such an important text, and it was prescient, right? So, now there have been a number of scholars who talk about the organizing tradition, that you shouldn't tell the movement simply in terms of mobilization, or simply in terms of charismatic leadership. He's doing that as the movement is happening, right? Drawing our attention to the young people who are on the ground every day, who understand that it is everyday ordinary people and their work that is going to transform the country, right? That it's important to attend to what the sharecroppers are doing, what the power of actually just getting people to confront the incredible danger to register to vote, for example. So it's a really important book, an early book, one that I hope more people read. And the significance of SNCC, I think, can't be overstated. I mean, that, we talk about the major legislation, the congressional legislative vote, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act. This is the product of the labor of young people who decide to devote their lives to the cause of freedom, when nothing would have given them the indication that they were going to win, right, in this struggle, right? And these people, 20 years old people, right, who are in harm's way every single day. And I think it's a testament to, and I'm really looking forward to hearing Miss Walker hopefully talk about this, because she's written so beautifully about what it meant for him to be present with young people, to be at the protests with them, right? To be, and then ultimately to be punished for that. But that it was, there's a trust there, there's a respect there, again, a recognition of their work. And when I often mention to my students when we talk about SNCC, these are people who were your age. They were trying to figure things out, right? And they also exceeded the imaginations of their elders. And I think that's really important, especially today, because we're in a morass, right? Yeah, we need imagination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. And we desperately need more national student organization to press back against these anti-history laws and attacks on women.
Yeah. And local too, right? Because they're in these little towns.
No doubt.
Except both, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this evening with us, Imani Perry. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for doing the work.